You know, your girl Kiki loves to read, and I am super excited. I've got New York Times bestselling author Christopher Rice with me today. The new book is called Sapphire Dawn. This looks so good. Just got it in the mail. Cannot wait to devour this. It's going to be so good. I'm so excited to talk to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. You're so happy and cheerful. I'm glad to be here.
Of course, I'm going to talk about books. What better thing to talk
Yeah.
about on a Tuesday? Is it Tuesday? Yeah, it
I
is.
don't know what day it is.
I know. Who
I
knows
no longer
anymore?
know. Yeah.
Whatever. So I want to know what inspires you besides maybe your mom. What
Mhm.
inspires you to write all these wonderful books?
Well, I like to say when the books are dark, what I usually, and this one isn't that dark, this is my sunnier side, but when the books are dark, it's often I saw a story on the news that really upset me, and I either want to give it a different ending or I think I know what really went on, right? The story behind the story. There's a lot of that in my thrillers. In my romances, these are so much more personal. Like this is really the first, this series is the first time I wrote love stories between men who looked and talked and sounded and loved like I did. So the inspirations are often very personal, but after four books in a series, you can't just write about yourself every time. So there are friends of mine that sort of pop up in these books, things they've been through, watching people in relationships, seeing what they have to do to keep the relationship going. But I'm always intrigued by a character, particularly here, because romance, when it's really done well, is all about character. But I want to know where the character's been and what they need to overcome to be with the love of their life, right?
Mhm.
So I'm always looking to the people in my life for that and to my own experience to a certain degree. But listen, I'm a voracious reader. I would rather be reading than writing. I write so that I'll have something to read all day. You know what I mean? So, try stopping me.
I love that. I love that. So you mentioned different genres. Do
Yes.
you have one that you love more? Is there one that excites you more than the other?
I kind of I don't want to say I sleep around with genres, but I really love suspense in general. I love creating suspense, and I think you can do that in any genre you write in. It's not about, oh, there's a gun or there's a serial killer. That's not suspense. Suspense is I'm going to guide you towards a revelation, and the characters that you know are going to see things in a way they didn't see them before, and you withhold certain pieces of information to keep people reading. And I love exploring that as an art. And apparently, it was something like even people who aren't really big fans of my books say he knows how to create suspense. Like I kept
Mhm.
reading, I didn't like this, but I kept reading. So it comes naturally to me. That might be why I write it. But I really, if there's one thing that all the books I've done have in common, there is often some kind of mystery that needs to be solved, or there is some drama or scandal that needs to be unwound. And so there are little elements of thrillers that pop up in the Sapphire Cove series. Like I wouldn't call them romantic suspense novels technically, but they have their moments of excitement and adventure.
I I am obsessed with TikTok in general. I admit, but I do get
Right.
down a rabbit hole of book talk. How do you feel about
Mhm.
book talk and the people out there recommending or maybe not recommending books? How does that make you feel as an author?
I'll tell you, I get this question a lot. How do you feel about book talk? And I got to tell you, what's way more upsetting to me than the way people might talk about books is when no one is talking about
Uh,
books. And that's a very real fear. And it's been a fear in the industry since I first started publishing in 2000. This sense of, oh my God, book lovers are going away,
mhm.
bookstores are closing, it's all over, we've lost it all to TV and movies, all that sort of stuff. So when book talk happened, I was so excited, like, and I try not to get caught up in the specific opinions of people that I might not disagree with, because I think it's so important to have a vibrant, dynamic community of people who love books. And I don't care what books they love. I don't care if it's all about dragon books right now. Be whatever it needs to be about, whatever it's about, and then the next trend will happen and it'll be great. But like the fact that this many young people are talking excitedly and passionately about books. If you had said that to me in 2000, I would have said, you're making this up. this is a story, because we just felt like everything was on a downward slope
Mhm.
with books, and it's not.
It's crazy. You know, I just saw a TikToker today. She's already read, I think, 85 books or some
Yeah.
crazy number. And I'm like, I first of all, jealous,
Yeah.
totally jealous. I would love to just stay home and read all day and get
Right.
lost in another world. But how do they do it? It's just it's mind-boggling to me.
I don't know. I'm assuming audiobooks play a role,
I
like,
guess,
which
yeah.
I've gotten into for years. I was like, I can't read audiobooks. My mind wanders and I need the
Hmm.
words in front of me. But then I was like, I have too many books I want to read. I've got to get some of these queued up on the walk to the gym. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Right? So, what's on your TBR?
Oh, what isn't on my TBR? I go back and forth. I'm usually reading a lot of fiction, but I'm also reading history and things I'm fascinated with. And I'll just go down some rabbit hole. Like this week, it'll be all about the Old West, or this week, it'll be all about the Prussia forming as an empire. But right now, I'm really excited about an author named KJ Charles, who my best friend and podcasting co host, Eric Shaw Quinn, really got me into. I had read KJ, but he read a bunch of KJ, and he's now the number one KJ Charles stan. And she is a male romance author who usually it is historical, and there's very often a mystery in the book as well, which is why Eric loves it. But she's just so great, and her men are so sophisticated, and it's that British thing of when they do finally let their emotions out, it's so much more powerful because they've been British up until then and
Hmm.
restrained. So I'm really excited about her, but like I am really my TBR, like you can see some of my shelves behind me. This is like a fraction. And then on my e-reader, I've got like 2,000, 3,000 more books. So I got a long way to go before I've read everything I want to read.
I know. I feel like every time the doorbell rings, it's Amazon bringing me another book,
Yeah.
and I'm still buying books from the local bookstore too. I blame it on the interviews I do.
Yeah.
When your book came the other day, I was like, well, I'm interviewing him,
Yeah.
so I have to
Absolutely.
know. I have to know. I have to read
Totally.
it. It's
Totally.
work. It's work. So,
Yeah.
do you have any rituals when you get going with writing? Anything that you
Caffeine.
have to have?
Caffeine and then caffeine and then more I sometimes I overdo the caffeine, but I'm a tea drinker. I like to be at the spot where I'm sitting right now during this interview is kind of my writing spot. It doesn't always have the cameras and the microphones, but I really like to get at it early. I like to feel like I'm ahead. I think I'm one of those, if I wait until the afternoon to write, it's not going to happen. There are days where there's a lot of stuff I need to get done first, where I need to have it out of my way. Those days are rare though. If I can wake up on the earlier side, get some caffeine in me, do my sort of morning meditation routine, and then get to the computer before I've made the bed or before I've showered and get some writing in, I feel like that's a good day.
I love it. And I know a lot of people who say they want to write a book.
Oh, yeah.
And do you have any advice for them? What would be your piece of advice to anyone who's thinking about it?
Bite-sized pieces. Take it off in bite-sized pieces. It is, as they say, it's a cliche. It's a marathon, not a sprint, but that just makes it sound like you're going to be miserable for longer. It is start with small, easily attainable daily goals and just get to a place where you can keep pushing at it. Keep pushing at it. The person who sits down and says, I'm going to write a book in a day or in 2 weeks, listen, if you can, more power to you. If that comes naturally to you, but it doesn't come naturally to almost any writer I know. So find a way to make it sustainable and consistent without overwhelming yourself. And I think that the only qualification I need to write about something, or let's just say to finish something, right? I'm not
Mhm.
talking about from an editorial or critical standpoint, is obsession. And I need to be obsessed with it. And if it's a topic or if it's a character, if it's a story where it's like, oh my God, I'm so bored, that's not the book you should be writing. And I think, the best piece of advice I ever got from my mother on writing was write the book you want to read,
Mhm.
you know?
Right. I know sometimes I read books and I think, how do you come up with so much detail and so many ideas and so many characters? It just seems overwhelming. Anyone who is able to put everything down on a piece of paper, I'm just so impressed by.
Thank you. I sometimes look at it as a mental problem, but like I can't stop. I'm always
Oh
scribbling
my.
or whatever. But thank you. I think that, those of us who do it can't not do it.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
I understand that. And do you ever have writer's block?
No. No, I have
Great.
moments, and this is how I experience writer's block, where my worry about how something is going to be received or reviewed outpaces my ambition to write it. And I have to sort of talk to my good friend Derek Shaw Quinn, who I do my podcast with over at the Dinner Party Show. And he talks some sense into me. And I have to bring myself back into the moment. But I've always got stuff I want to write. The thing that keeps me from writing it is a lot of crawling up my own backside, if you'll forgive the expression, about whether or not it will do well, whether it will be popular, all that stuff over which we have no control at all anyway. So why waste time?
Yep, you got to quiet the voices. I know, I
Hmm.
know. Well, Christopher Rice, the new book is Sapphire Dawn. Is there a website where people can go to find out more
Oh,
information?
yeah. So many websites. The podcast I mentioned earlier comes out every Sunday at thedinnerpartyshow.com. And we also have sales pages for the books there. There's a dedicated website just for the series. Visit sapphirecove.com. And for people who are interested in all the different genres I've written, ChristopherRiceBooks.com is kind of my main page.
It's been delightful talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, have a good day.
You too.
Thanks.